mountain falls, I'll be the sea to swallow it all. The monkey rages, I will free the cage. Where hope is gone, I have the strength to carry you on. When heat is rising.
We got a kicker with a pick.
The Indianapolis Colts have traded the 49th pick to the Philadelphia Eagles. To announce the Philadelphia Eagles selection, please welcome, from the University of Louisville, kicker David Akers.
What's up, Dallas?
Kicker's trolling the Cowboys.
Last year. I like standing up here before you as an undrafted free agent, representing that shield for 15 years. Tonight, I'm representing the Philadelphia Eagles, NFC East champs, divisional champs, NFC champs, and world champs. The world champs. Hey, Dallas, the last time you were in the Super Bowl, these draft picks weren't born. Woo! Tonight, we are welcome into the Eagles
Look at Doug
family
Peterson.
with the 49th pick in the 2018 draft. The NFL would like to represent the Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Goedert. He is the tight end from South Dakota State. Go Birds!
When the mountain falls, I'll be the sea to swallow it all. The monkey rages, I will free the cage. Where hope is gone, I have the strength to carry you on. When heat is rising.
And welcome everybody in here to another edition of the Football Stories radio show. On the eve of draft night, I am Matt Santoleri. We got Al Thompson over here, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, our host here of the radio program. We got Big Al Zaffiri filling in there, doing double duties in the co-host role and always producing our show. We got a really awesome one for you guys tonight. Before we get to it, got to throw over to Al for a quick word.
Go. And teamworks make dream work. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is a boutique brokerage in Mullica Hill, New Jersey that works as a team as they service all areas of southern New Jersey, including Atlantic, Burlington, Camden, Cape May, Cumberland, Gloucester, and Salem counties. The South Jersey real estate market is on fire right now, and the real estate market is up 16% nationally, according to the National Association of Realtors. At Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, we have a number of buyers in waiting looking to move into their dream home. Our sellers are receiving multiple offers and getting top dollar for their home. Recently, they've seen homes get $20,000 over asking price. No home is too big or too small for this brokerage. And get this, Nancy says your home sold guaranteed, or she'll buy it if you agree with her on the terms and conditions that apply. If you are thinking about selling your home, now is the time. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 to speak to one of their highly trained professionals. And, I always get chills when I watch that little clip. Obviously, I'm from Philadelphia. I grew up an Eagles fan, of course. And but David Akers just nails it. And the fact that he has to yell over that crowd brings his octave of his voice up. So he's this kicker with that Roger Daltrey, stutter, remember that fade away, and he's he's up there doing that with that squeaky voice, and the guy, the announcer of that particular broadcast said, kicker trolling the Cowboys, and he's freaking out. It sounded like a pro wrestling announcement. It
was absolutely incredible, and especially off the back of what happened the year prior with Drew Pearson in Philadelphia, who was there doing the second-round pick for the Cowboys, riling them up, throwing all the championship rings and all this stuff out there at Eagles fans, having all that good fun from Dallas. I mean, how much sweeter was it the following year to walk into
win the
Dallas,
Super Bowl.
who just won the Super Bowl, where Dallas, all their Super Bowls are on VHS tapes. Be able to go in there and to be able to do that, and for it to be David Akers, absolute icon as far as Philadelphia-wise concerned. Great kicker for a long time, and as you can see, a passionate Eagles fan even after his Eagles playing days were over.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And then also to nail the pick, Dallas Goedert still on the team. One of the only good draft picks that has happened over the last couple of years. So when you look back at that, it's not J.J. Arcega-Whiteside who got drafted. It's Dallas Goedert, and that makes it a little bit more special.
I mean, what more could an Eagles fan ask for than winning the Super Bowl? Then the next year, not even the next year, a few months later, they're hosting the draft at your rival's home city,
my goodness.
where you have to make a pick. The Super Bowl champ's always going to be pumped up through this whole thing, and then
Dallas
of course it had to be Philly.
Actually had a crowd.
Yeah,
and and they were passionate, and it was almost like they were on cue for the whole Eagles thing.
It's awesome.
It was perfect.
And to draft a guy named Dallas in Dallas,
and he goes
every part of
Dallas. He goes
every part of it was perfect. That's for sure.
But that was the last time they've done anything, and there's just nothing about these drafts for forever.
Well, last year there was, of course, canceled.
Right.
This year it's in Cleveland, but I'm going to guess it's going to be very toned down than it normally would be.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just talking about the picks. The ceremony is.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody misses it. Yeah. But and Cleveland, Las Vegas, some of these other places that thought they were going to have they see Philly's draft was amazing. The crowd they had
was awesome.
Dallas was awesome.
As somebody who was down there, I mean, they did it perfect in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah. And Nashville's was amazing, and too bad they didn't get the turnout for their games.
Right, exactly.
But they did an amazing job of hosting the draft, and then we had the pandemic, and then it just it's like everything else, like the Oscars. Like,
Then it opens up in Cleveland for the first time.
Right, yeah.
And so, did anybody watch the Oscars? I didn't watch.
I didn't watch the Oscars.
The movies that they had were just.
I mean, well, it was one of those years where it's like, all of these movies were out. I mean, we all saw them in streaming services, not really in the theaters. Everything was a really different year. And then the one award that everybody was pretty much certain was going to go to Chadwick Boseman ends up going to Anthony Hopkins anyway. Yeah. It was just a really weird year for the Oscars, really tough to kind of get behind it. I mean, it was, I guess, indicative of the year that was the year in movies, right? So
it was the year of the year of the year of the year. I mean,
exactly.
You can't win, and I never was. Even if we didn't have a pandemic, I wasn't watching the Oscars. So I'm going to be just dead honest with you.
Well,
I mean, it's just Hollywood pandering to each other.
But if you want to see what I thought was one of the of all the awards that I've ever watched, and I've watched some of them, but you like the fact that it's a big crowd and the roar and the stars and the seats and all that stuff that doesn't exist right now because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But if you want to see what it can be like. If you get a chance, just key in the 2019 Tony Award opening ceremony with James Corden. It's unreal. It's so incredible.
Well, was it the Oscars or one of them where I forget who was the host, but they didn't want him back because he was like kind of bashing on everybody.
Yeah.
But then the ratings took a huge dive.
And then they brought him back.
Who was it? James
Gervais.
Ricky Gervais.
Right.
Ricky Gervais,
Yes.
Yeah,
and he was like taking shots at people.
He was brutal.
I mean, he's that's what he specializes in. It's one of those funny things too. It's like when the Oscars got Chris Rock to host them, and then Chris Rock does exactly what Chris Rock always does, and then people want to act sanctimonious about it. It's like
he says, like I'm sure they were cringing when he goes. He says, "What are you guys worried about?" He says, "I'm worried about Grandma getting hung from a tree, and you're worried about whether a black guy is getting nominated for cinematography."
Right.
And they're like, "Oh my God, did he just say that?"
Chris
Rock. He did.
Yeah,
you brought him in.
Painful observationism,
Like every female actor, was white that year, and so what do you want?
Yeah,
there was zero diversity in the major awards in that year. So. You brought Chris Rock in to calm the turn the temperature down.
I
guess what he did.
Turned it up.
Any movie, I'm sorry, Oscars and all those things. I take no credence in those awards because I'm like, you have an Oscar Academy and all this stuff that tell you.
The average age.
Why isn't the people
Oscar
who watch
voters,
the stuff like I don't get it? Like, why are you telling me what's good?
The majority are male, majority are white, and the average age is something like 77. And it's like you wonder why the Matrix doesn't get get an Oscar for something real,
Right.
Like the acting or whatever, and
Sounds like Congress.
I mean, the shocker of all time was when The Sixth Sense got nominated. That was people were like,
Whoa.
floored. Like,
Yeah.
how could you do that? Like it's not.
I let my grandson choose this one. That's why I imagine. Like I let little Jimmy push the button for this one. You know. Like,
and they need some diversity in the voting. I mean,
it's not even just diversity. It's I always go back to this one movie, and I don't know why it has stuck in my craw for this long, and it's The English Patient.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
was
I don't want to
boring.
see it. I haven't heard one person, and I'm not saying like I know.
I've seen the movie.
I haven't heard one person say it was enjoyable.
I mean, it's really good acting, but it's brutally boring and monotonous. It's endless sand, and it's just more sand, and then some more sand.
That's it.
And
You would rather chew on that sand than watch any more of this sand.
And it's incredibly long, but it got all these raves from all the critics that care more about our house films than they do about
Blockbusters and things
I mean,
that people actually talk about.
Armageddon. Does not deserve a single Academy Award.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And they should embrace that style in the awards somehow.
Well, then that's where they do their special effects, I think, type deal.
But it should they should have a blockbuster catery at this point in time.
Exactly. And
The 5 most highest grossing movies of the year, then pit them against each other.
The Oscars had nothing to do with it, but the greatest gift they ever had was the Black Panther, because A, it was a really good movie. B, had a lot of black people in it, mostly black people in it, and we can put ourselves as being diverse. Like seriously.
Do you think I can see them doing it, like all these old guys is going, oh, good, we have one. They're not going to think we're racist or something.
Exactly.
Yay,
That was a gift from heaven to
Hey,
them.
look, we picked Black Panther.
Oh my goodness. 100%.
I'm like, I imagine like one of those guys going, oh, I thought you said the Pink Panther. My bad. Like wrong movie.
But anyway, so I don't really know what else we can talk about with the Eagles and the draft.
I don't know. There's just this little thing called the draft tomorrow.
I mean, that poor horse. There's nothing left of it. It's carbon now.
Isn't
know?
that the fun though?
It is,
man. Isn't it the fun? Like just like talking about like as you learn more about guys, possibly, and then like, are they going to move up? They're going to move back? Like. I don't know. I like learning about because I follow college football like to a point. I'm not gonna sit there and say I know everything, but and then the research that I do over I've done how many articles over the last 8 weeks. Then learning some guys, I'm like, oh, I really like these guys. Me and you were chatting on Facebook today, like going back, and we both like this, like one of the same guys, running back Stevenson from Oklahoma.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that's a guy like that's. Listen, he's not He's not going to be the number 1 overall pick.
Right.
Let's throw that out there for anybody who knows anything about him. He's a big back bruiser, that guy, north and south kind of guy that we've talked about, that this team has sorely missed. We won off the back of big backs in 2017. We forget that. And I even said it how many times before, if we had a guy like that even last year, the season could have been a little different just from the fact that you have an extra blocker back there that's not 5'2", and weighs 112 pounds.
But if you've got 16 sports channels now. I mean, there's I'm probably not exaggerating. There's so many sports channels, there's hundreds of thousands of blogs,
100%.
Podcasts, blogs. Yeah.
Talking about a running back in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round does not get you clicks, does not get you viewers.
No.
Endlessly talking about Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, and are they gonna like hold him being black against them? Is he gonna drift to 12? Is he
There's definitely like the sensationalism of quarterbacks, right? What the league cares about. That's what typically moves the league in a general direction. I mean, and just look at just the last couple of drafts. I mean, we look at the 2017 draft or 2016 draft with Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. Both number 1 and number 2 picks are no longer playing for their teams. Mitch Trubisky, a year after that, no longer playing for his team. Deshaun Watson, who is electrifying, has all these off-the-field issues that might cause him to not only not play for the Texans, but be untradeable for the Texans to be able to move. I mean,
if something comes down, he's done.
Yeah, and so there's so many things on that where there's so many, franchises that are hanging in the balance on what quarterback play is.
Yeah.
And understandable is the quarterbacks that move the conversation. But the good thing about the draft is, especially I would say this year, it's a super interesting year because of the opt-outs, because of players playing 5, 6, 7 game schedules, and the real uncertainty of the draft has always been there, but in this year it's really uncertain. There's guys who people are like, that guy's 100% going top 15. He might go pick 37. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Right to the Eagles. There's so much variance, and you don't know what teams care about it. The one talk that was coming out of Miami was that Brian Flores, the Miami Dolphins, really didn't want any opt-out players. Well, the two players who are the most likely to fall into their lap are Jamar Chase and Penei Sewell, both guys who opted out right there. So it's like, different positions like that are just, it's interesting for that talk and to see how it goes.
Yeah.
And again, the trades, I mean, the Eagles trade set
Well, Miami
everything
just
on
did
fire.
Miami and Buffalo.
Miami and Washington just kicked the trade. So it was like, for the longest time, we're sitting there talking, and we're like, oh, Miami's definitely taking Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, whatever pass catchers on the board. Now they move Eric Flowers, and now it's, they might have a guard or a tackle spot open. Maybe Penei Sewell is their pick. Maybe that was one of the guys who they said, we got to move back up to 6 from 12 because one of these 3 guys will be there, and now they're thinking, oh, wow, we really got to get this ball rolling. Even just today, too, the Broncos traded for Teddy Bridgewater.
Yep.
So 2 teams
What is
right
with
back
the Broncos
to back.
and trading for quarterbacks that are like
Well, it worked out pretty well for Peyton Manning. It got him a Super Bowl ring
but
and another trip to
they
one.
did not win that Super Bowl because of Peyton Manning.
I wouldn't say they did, but it got them. He killed the Patriots in the AFC Championship game the week before.
Yes.
Granted, he did the exact same thing over and over again, and the Patriots claiming
That defense
insanity
was
didn't
sick.
start
That
it.
defense was sick.
It was really good, but
He rode the back of Von Miller in the Super
100%, 100%. But we've seen bad quarterbacks win
Bowl. He made
championships
one decent
before.
pass in that
He
game.
did actually. Don't forget, he was actually benched.
He was benched for Brock Osweiler that
for
year.
a couple games that year too.
I
Yeah.
mean, his neck was like somebody sewed a board into his
Oh,
neck,
yeah.
and he was like, doing this stuff, and he looked like he was.
Yeah, he was like
wasn't-
Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas. He was just getting sewed
Well, the
together
funny thing
over
is,
and over
he
again.
didn't even have to do much because they schemed on how to shut down
Yeah.
the Panthers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they shut down,
And
Scam,
he had Mike
Scam
Remmers
Newton.
playing tackle, and it was Von Miller went, "I got this."
That's it. Yeah, I mean, but they're just the things that, again, they're just kind of interesting to a lot of people who are interested in the draft because both the Panthers were like, oh, they're definitely taking a quarterback. Then they make a trade for Sam Darnold. And then it's like, okay, they're going in this year with Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater. Still a lot of uncertainty, but for 1 year they can at least roll the dice. But then they trade Teddy Bridgewater and they don't have a backup. Now the Panthers are right back maybe in the quarterback mix. It's like a lot of stuff right there. And when we're talking about pick 12 with the Eagles, this is all stuff that matters because this is all dictating which one of these guys will still be on the board at 12 and whether or not the rumors that Howie and the Eagles might be aggressive and trying to trade back up into top 10 because they realize they've got an overpay from the Miami Dolphins, giving the extra first-round pick. Maybe they can partner up that third they got from Miami with their first-round pick, move back up. They still got that first round next year to rely on, but they can get a premium player and make sure they get the guy who they want.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz apparently will no longer be on this football team
after
past
Lamar.
trade.
Well, they're going to package him in with something to.
Yeah.
Right. Is that going to be a day 1, a day 2, a day 3 trade? It's all going to be coming down to
So
the
you're
moment
saying
it
there's drama,
happens.
and everybody loves drama. I mean, there's a lot of drama in this draft. I mean, just the stories about some of these players who came from nothing, who had to work their ass off
Yeah.
to get where they had to be.
When they used to actually have you go to the NovaCare Center, and before that, I think it was the vet, the basement of the vet, used to go for the draft. Was even though the Eagles might be drafting, especially during the Andy Reid era, they were always in the playoffs. They were always playing really well, so they always had these in the 20s. It's like, do I really have to go because it's going to be 15 minutes per pick? Yeah, you got to go because you never know.
Yeah.
They could trade up. All kinds of crazy things could happen.
Yeah.
So you had to be there from the first pick and. And watch this. And the Eagles used to be really good. They had, like, in this big auditorium, they had it on this giant screen. You could watch the draft or in the media room.
Oh,
But
yeah.
now you have it in this. They have the media. We have our own house on the edge of the compound because the Eagles have ridiculously outgrown NovaCare.
Did you guys get word on what they're doing this year? Are they going right back to the Zoom setup from last year again?
I haven't received anything. yet.
Okay.
So
I was just interested because, that was one of the big kickers I thought last year where it was, obviously they make that dramatic pick of Jalen Hurts in the second round, and they had to immediately have a emergency press conference via Zoom to try to explain themselves, and it was just maybe a little easier to do it that way than it would be to have all those hard-hitting questions maybe thrown at them in person after making a pick like that.
No, I mean, we've seen how many times when an article would come out from Jeff McClain or something that didn't go favorable in the eyes of Howie Roseman or Jeff Lurie or anything, and they would, this Zoom thing definitely plays in their favor because maybe Jeff McLean doesn't get chose on this time, or somebody asks a question.
You can't see it on the screen, but when that happens, he'll put these little messages to everybody going, "Hey, I got a really good question about this and that." It's pretty funny.
That's really funny.
And does anybody want to ask? Or there's some people that will say, "Somebody ask a question about this,"
Right?
Or ask a question about that, because we're not going to get called on,
right?
You know what I mean? And I told you last week that a guy like me, if I have a question I want to ask, I get there really early. Mm-hmm. Plant yourself. It's like you stake out a certain seat. We know where the coach is going to be. And I can get that first shot in before the stock market opens.
Right.
Right? And but that was the fun of doing a press conference. You miss that stuff.
Well, you know what? That's a good question because, you see the press conferences like in movies or something. No. You got like 20 people, and they
that's a bit over the top.
Yeah. Now I'm just saying now, in normally. Do you how do they call on you? Where if somebody's talking
it's
over,
a really big press conference to have somebody there calling on people, and they have a microphone they hand around.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
but a lot of times it's just
free for all.
So if you start saying, but say somebody else says something, whoever's the loudest is going to get an answer.
Correct.
Pretty much. Okay,
and whoever the coach is, the player, they'll go, okay, you.
Yeah,
and then they'll go. If it's a quarterback and they kind of know what's going on, they'll go back to the person that they kind of chose against.
Right.
The next time, So some people are really good at that. But that's been it seems like so long ago.
Yeah.
Since you were over there for these press conferences and, watching, the PR guy or a girl, Ali, bringing the backstop out that you still see, but you see them setting everything up and you just miss all that stuff, behind the scenes stuff. So I don't know. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, too, because, there's players who, not to say that a guy like Jalen Hurts doesn't know what real media looks like playing at places like Oklahoma and Alabama, but there's players that are on this team that maybe are getting drafted this year, maybe out of a small school or something, and they really don't know what it's going to be like until we do get back to that, and kind of how that thought process will go into picking these guys.
When you have the locker room with, 60, 65 lockers, and they all belong to a player, there's always these stories that are interesting that you find because you're in there.
Yeah.
And you do, research on bios and things like that, and you can say, well, today I'm going to go talk to this guy because I didn't know that his father was, in the military, or he did this, he was a hero. I didn't know that, or whatever. There's a lot of things that you can find of interesting. And if you go through the Philadelphia media, whether it's Vi Sikahama, Brian Baldinger, Barrett Brooks, Ike Reese, Jim Ritchie, what's his first name? John Ritchie.
John Ritchie.
All of them were role players.
Yeah.
That were discovered by media being in the locker room. Mm-hmm. So it's like right now that doesn't exist.
Well, it's like Brandon Graham. Everybody goes, he's vying for some sort of talk spot or some sort of media spot for. He talks to everybody when he's in the locker room. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I'll give Les Bowen credit. He had a great line when he talked about him once. He said that if Brandon Graham could go through the stadium and shake everybody's hand before every game, all 68,000 people, he would. Mm-hmm. That's just the way he is.
Yeah.
And he holds these sessions at his locker, and he's crazy. And it's
never know what's going to come out of his mouth. It's an interesting soundbite waiting to happen.
He's always, and so you miss that kind of thing, And
of course.
And he doesn't hold back. There's times, listen, you can tell anybody's doing a corporate line. He's not go, Howie's a moron, or Jeff Lurie doesn't know what he's doing. But he doesn't hold back in a good and he seems to defend the people. He seems forthright, I guess is a good way of putting it. I never felt like I was getting fed any BS from him.
And if he wasn't going to talk, he would just say, I really don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
He wouldn't try to dance around
or anything. Yeah.
So and Fletcher Cox, people like that, and and O-linemen are always good for a quote. They may not be as well known, but and some of them, Isaac Siamalo is not going to put his hand up and say, "Hey, can I do a Zoom today?"
Right.
He's not going to. He's just not going to do it. And but Jason Kelsey will. Mm-hmm. That's just the way he is, because he does, I believe, have has a desire to be, have some kind of role in the media after his playing days are over. So, who knows? So you missed that. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to be the same thing as Zoom, but you're going to see. I know some writers went there. I saw. See, Les Bowen said he was on a plane. He thinks it was. Kyle Pitts
Yeah.
on the plane in front of him because he didn't know how to approach him.
Oh man.
He puts that on Twitter, like maybe he was hoping that he'd see it and turn and go, "Hey, Leslie, I'm Kyle Pitts," and so I don't know. That was kind of funny. And
how funny would it be though if somehow?
But he said there's all these people on the plane with his jersey on.
Yeah.
That had to be family.
It only makes sense. I mean, he'd say he's going to have his name called pretty early. I think he's going to have a top 5 draft pick.
But how funny would
his
it be
name.
if he somehow fell a few picks backwards, and he was like could fall into Dallas's lap, and here comes the Eagles who leapfrog him.
Oh man!
And just Dallas Goddard him all over again.
Yeah,
that'd be great. I mean, honestly, it would also be one of those things too, where it's like for Dallas, it'd be interesting because even though Kyle Pitts would be an incredible weapon, it's like how many offensive weapons do you need? Then you just have that defense being absolutely ravaged. Still, it almost might fall in the name.
They had a very potent offense at one point last year before Dak got hurt, but. I mean, they were scoring 48 points. It's losing. That's bad. So if you're scoring that many points, obviously offense isn't your problem. And you're losing. Offense isn't your problem. But that's just Jerry Jones, and he just...
That's it. Somebody's got to take the mic, take the pick out of his hands.
It's little Jerry.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, as I was saying, it's just like a lot of stuff there. And the big thing, too, is when we're talking about the Eagles, I mean, you're sitting now at 12. You were sitting at 6. So... if there was a player who was that generational game-changing prospect, it'd have to go through you before getting to Dallas, before getting to the New York Giants. And now you're sitting behind both of those teams, 1, 2, and 3, waiting for those picks to fall. You could see some situations where the Devonta Smith that a lot of people in Philadelphia like to see could go at 11 to the Giants.
Sure.
You could have that cornerback prospect that a lot of people are chomping at the bits at go to Dallas there at 10. And so a lot of that part of it is interesting there too because there might not even be movement and you can still get sniped, for those picks that people really want to have happen. So that's another big part of it where it comes down to, hey, we'll see how true these rumors are that Howie is aggressive to getting back into that top 10.
It was cracking me up, though, when that guy Lombardi.
Mike Lombardi?
Mark Lombardi, he had these problems with his server, and his website was kind of failing. He was losing a lot of listeners, and he needed something. I got to go attack the Eagles fans, and he comes up with that crazy story that it actually was a double whammy, a good thing for him, because he said Doug Peterson is the most overrated coach in the NFL, and it went wild. It worked. Got people back to his website.
I think he was on radio once a week for that. Every time they won, they brought him back on and go, "Do you still think he's the worst? Do you still think he's the worst?"
My point. And then he got a bonus when they win the Super Bowl, and he gets trashed again in front of the art museum, right?
Yeah.
So he crushed that, right?
Hey, man.
But it works. So what was his name? Hodge for the Steelers.
Yeah.
I mean, his whole thing was just picking fights with the Eagles fans. So it's and I saw a lot of these mock drafts. They would have, it would be like, if the Eagles are 12, they would have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Eagles wish list, Eagles wish list, Eagles wish list, Eagles wish list. Number 12, somebody never heard of. Just to get them crazy, you know what I mean? And it works.
They say all publicity is good publicity, right?
But
I know
it's
people.
like,
I mean, look at
it's
it.
like that, a cat. You know that if you put 1 million cats in a row and you had the same little stick with a feather on it, all 1 million cats are going to go, right?
Yeah.
So.
I know. I think everybody in major media knows just pick on Philly. It's going to help you get some clicks. Good or bad, it's going to help you get some clicks. I mean,
we're mocking them out right now, saying you're fools. You fall for it every time. Well,
I mean, it's one of those things.
ESPN does it. ESPN does it too. I mean, bad ESPN does it. I've lost so much respect for ESPN from over the years. I used to have an alarm on my TV instead of an alarm on my clock. When I was younger, that would turn right on to Sports Center every morning, so I would wake up. Anything I missed, I'd get changed, and I was paying attention to it. But these lists and stuff that they put out, they even did one with the greatest top 50 or 25 sports movies. They leave Rocky right off of it, knowing that's going to piss every Philadelphia fan off.
It's BuzzFeed for sports.
But there really isn't much on any of these stations that I really like anymore, that I really give a crap about.
Well, it's the 24-hour news cycle. I think that kind of gets into everything where it's like now everybody, all these shows, right, they're competing with the internet and the way that the internet can give you bite-sized information at whatever way to your fingertips, however it comes. And so instead of having to wait for Charlie Casserly to go 1 through 11 before he gets to pick 12. Well, I can just look up every website that writes for the Eagles, every
Right.
person who's on Twitter,
Yeah.
and see what they're talking about with the Eagles. I don't have to wait for that.
What was
And
that
so
show
it-
with Dan Letard?
Dan Lebitard? I love Dan
Lebitard.
Lebitard. He's
That
awesome.
was the only one I actually...
Because it was funny. It did something different, and it got you like...
and his father, the other show that he had his father on
highly
with,
questionable.
Highly questionable.
It was
That was
incredible.
hilarious.
Right.
And his father was such a goofball.
Yeah.
And then they quit.
Yeah.
It's like, that was the only decent show you had on the whole stinking
Well,
network.
Dan Lebitard really pulled a power move on that end because
Yeah.
they were getting rid of members of his radio
Right.
show, and he basically told ESPN to kick rocks. I don't need you. I can go wherever I want and still be
Right.
good. I wrote for the Herald for as long as I did. I've made my own name. My fans will follow me. Like, it's just your loss because you want to get rid of one guy on the bottom of the totem pole to save yourself a couple extra $1,000 so that your CEO can make a couple extra
Because all the
million.
shows that aren't producing can stay on the air. They're already at minimum.
Yep.
But you're going to chip away at mine, one of your few moneymakers?
Exactly. So,
know,
I mean, honestly, kudos to him because there's a lot of guys who wouldn't take that stand.
Well,
for
they're,
the low
they're
guy
not
on
in
the
that
totem
position
pole.
to do it either.
Right.
But it was the one decent show that I liked. Yeah. And I'm not saying anybody else is, who might talk.
But everything's
the,
turned into these debate shows where it's you
Yeah.
stay on one side, I stay on one side. Both are equally ridiculous, and we'll never meet in the middle, right? And it's
Shannon's show, was it Undisputed?
Undisputed,
Yeah.
First Take, and it's like every show on ESPN and Fox Sports 1 has basically turned into a bastardized version of one of those shows. And it's like there's only so much I can take of
it was
somebody
like,
yelling at me.
Jackie Gleason was always about to get that. If he got a winning lottery ticket, it would get burned up in a fire or something. They never actually get it. You know what I mean? There's never a finale to any of these
Yeah.
things. So but whatever. We have to take a break. We're way past our break. We'll be back with more after this on Football Stories Facebook Live. Our sponsor, Nancy Kowalik, broker-owner at Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Groups, says her market in South Jersey experiencing a seller's market. Homes are selling for 100% of asking price or more, and they're selling fast. Homes are receiving multiple offers, which turn into bidding wars as soon as they premiere on the first open house. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is the #1 real estate brokerage in South Jersey. Their homes sell 46% faster, and sale prices are nearly 3% higher than competing brokerage listings, according to the 2019 Bright MLS statistics. If you're looking to sell your home fast and for top dollar, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. You can visit online at southjerseyteam.com. And if you're thinking about buying a home, Nancy's team of highly trained professionals are standing by to help you find that perfect home, and they're experts in the field, whether it's a buyer's or seller's market. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start packing.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Need new carpet or flooring? We know. You don't want to pay too much. You want fast, reliable service, a great installation, and be able to choose from a huge selection. Well then, never pay store prices again. Shop at home and save with Smart Carpet and Flooring. Whether you need new hardwood flooring, vinyl flooring, carpet, or tile, Smart Carpet mobile showrooms have all the brands you want and all at great prices. Your time is valuable, and we make it easy for you to get the new floor you want. We even move your furniture. So if you're ready for a new floor from Armstrong, Shaw, Mohawk, Congolium, Bruce, and more, call Smart Carpet and Flooring today at 1-800-526-7847. That's 1-800-526-7847. Smart Carpet and Flooring. Never pay store prices again.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Colonial Marble and Granite. We've revolutionized the way you buy your granite countertops. Unbeatable prices. Visit us online at colonialmarble.net.
Everyone is different. Some get injured while others wear down. At Premier Orthopedics Associates of Southern New Jersey, they customize a treatment plan to meet your needs. Offering the latest techniques and non-invasive procedures, their fellowship-trained specialists will get you back in action. With locations across South Jersey, they're close to home, providing the premier care you expect and deserve. Call or text 856-690-1616 or visit their website at poasnj.com to schedule an appointment. That website address again is poasnj.com. Football Story. Football Stories Facebook Live would like to welcome to its family of advertisers All-American Gutter Protection. All-American Gutter Protection is new to the Delaware Valley, but hardly new to gutter protection and gutters. Located at 975 J. Moore Road, Suite number 4 in Southampton, PA. The zip is 18966. The number for All-American Gutter Protection is 888-323-8090.
And welcome back here to Football Stories Radio Show, live on Facebook and YouTube. I am Matt Santoleri. To the left of me, we got Al Thompson, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, host here of the radio program. We got Big Al Zaffiri producing the show, as always, and doing some double duty here as a co-host. And we got a great rest of the show to get to. Before we get to that, though, got to throw over to Al.
There you go. And build your dream home. Incredible opportunities are waiting for you. The old saying, buy land, they are not making any more of it, is true. And here is your chance to own a nice plot of your own, to build a dream home or business for yourself, or buy as an investment to hold onto for a later date. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group has several land listings available for your consideration in various shapes and sizes in several locations around Gloucester and Salem counties. Check out these land listings offered by Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group. For the developer, there is a fully approved subdivision in Mullica Hill. This 8-acre parcel has been planned as a subdivision for 12 single-family homes. This land comes with the fully approved design plans for the infrastructure of the major subdivision of 12 homes with public water and public sewer on a cul-de-sac street. Build your dream home in Mullica Hill on one of 4 lots from 2 to 12 acres, all designated for single-family homes. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start your journey to your dream home. Do it right now. And welcome back. This is Football Stories, Facebook Live. I'm Al Thompson here with Matt Santoleri, as he introduced everybody already, and Al Zaffiri. We do have Dr. McMillan coming up at 7 o'clock. We have some pretty interesting subjects to talk about. I think I sent you guys a note.
Yeah,
on
for
it.
sure.
And it involves, weed. And, how that's going to be.
Didn't know Al was so liberal. Did you
not.
bring some for everybody?
I'm all for, and I don't want to ruin this subject, but
Sure.
I'm all for to get rid of opioids. If you're going to substitute it, I just have, my concerns are COPD. I mean, just because now all we can smoke weed.
Well,
if you're using the
just
chemical,
as a person who deals in that business a little bit, there's so many other ways you don't have to smoke.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
Yeah.
Some of the things we're going to talk about
Yeah.
at 7 o'clock is how do we move forward with this as a viable option to opioids. And there's been some breakthroughs that are in an article that I also sent you guys. I don't know if you sat down there and read it or not, but I think the doc did, so he'll explain it to us. And of course, the draft gets started tomorrow night. I don't even know what time it starts.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8
I
o'clock.
want to thank the President of the United States for not doing his speech until 8 o'clock tonight.
There you go.
Right? And you can miss all those pregame crap because it's the same thing as those shows we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's all the same crap.
That's it.
You know, and,
Yeah, tonight's like actually the day off from the draft. I would take.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't really listen to much. Like, I have all my notes that I've been taking that I'm going to add to, review, change some opinions on, whatever, that kind of stuff, my own stuff. But like I'm done listening. Like this is like at this point it's just you're spinning your wheels.
That's
like,
it.
tonight,
Like, you've done all the research
Yeah.
on it. You feel conviction in what you're doing. And at this point, it's just like you said, either listening to contrarian opinions for no reason whatsoever,
Yeah.
Or just, like, again, not being able to turn that switch off. It's like, you get home from work. You don't want to continue doing work. You want to do something you enjoy. Obviously, we enjoy the draft, but
Yeah.
there's only a certain amount of it before it becomes more work, and then you kind of look at it that way.
Yeah.
I actually took a time the other day to say, you know what, I'm going to watch something non-sports related, and I watched the first 2 episodes of the Mayor of Easttown,
Okay.
which was actually a pretty good show so far, and
Nice.
it's based right here in Delaware County.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Mayor of Newtown?
No, the
Easttown.
mayor, not the mayor. Mayor
That
of...
show takes place around here?
Oh, I mean, the first 2 episodes, they're drinking Wawa coffees. They're talking about Ridley and Coco's cheesesteaks, and
filmed in Burbank, California.
No, actually, they say it was filmed a lot. The funny part is Downingtown, Phoenixville.
But the thing is, they do it when It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh,
They
yeah.
came here once, and they filmed all these shots, B-roll of Philadelphia, and then the whole thing was shot in California.
Oh, yeah.
Every time it was on. But I didn't know that was in Philly. It's what's her name? Kate
Winslet, who plays apparently she had a meltdown trying to learn the Delco accent, which was hilarious.
Well, why didn't we get her on here?
Where?
Get her on the show.
Okay, well, let me
On
get
one of
her.
your shows, you should have had her on.
Okay, Kate. Yeah, it's Al. You know, and Al wants to know if you can come on. Okay, Kate will be right around. She's like, just give her 5 minutes. She's going to the bathroom. No, but
I watched some of it. And some of it was pretty wild.
But you didn't notice the things they were the first couple minutes they talk about.
Yeah,
I am going to Ridley.
Wawa is now in Tampa.
Yeah, I know, but
it's
he's like, I'm not going to Ridley. She tells the guy in the first episode the best place for a cheese stick is Coco's. The best place for a hoagie is
product placement there.
Yeah, but the other one was what the heck? It's Las Spadas, which is right down the street here in Ridley. So, I mean, it's very much so. Actually, the guy who plays the detective from the county, he learned how to do his accent by hanging at Dolan's bar across the street. He spent a whole couple of days there just hanging out, talking to people.
I think he would end up coming out sounding like Lenny Dykstra. You know?
No, that's his mumbles.
Yeah.
No, he actually he hung out there for a couple of days, just kind of talking to people and learned the accent.
Well, I met one of the before he became a big star. I was at the one Phillies training camp I went to in Clearwater. I get there and there's this skinny dude in the stands in a full Phillies uniform, and it was Virgo Mortensen.
Mortensen. Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah,
it's the guy from what the heck's it called?
The Green Book.
Well, he's in Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
But he became a massive star back then. Nobody came near him. I sat next to him the whole practice, and we just shot the what, and at the time I was covering the movies for the Trentonian, so I had a lot of stuff I could talk about. You know what I mean? Different people I'd interviewed or whatever. But he was there to learn to watch mannerisms that people, at a minor league practice. It wasn't a minor league practice. It was the Phillies, and just watching everything everybody did. And he had the uniform on to get the feel.
There you go. That's
so.
Actors in their what's it called?
They don't want to copy
method
it.
acting is pretty interesting.
They don't want to copy it.
No,
but they want to get
authenticity.
Yeah,
which makes
authentic.
sense.
And he was in that movie, The 28 Days, with Sandra Bullock, where she's in a rehab. He's a baseball pitcher that's rehabbing.
Oh, by the way, the guy was Evan Peters who hung out at Dolan.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Evan Peters, the guy he was Quicksilver in the Fox X-Men, and then also in WandaVision. This one,
American Horror Story.
American Horror Story was
a lot
a big
of good
one.
things he's been in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, it's actually, if you take just not going Google's Doko and I live there, it's actually a decent story so far.
Okay.
It comes out serially, so you only get the first 2 episodes.
I started watching The Nevers.
I haven't watched that yet.
It's kind of weird. Have you watched it yet?
I haven't. No,
It's
I've been.
very strange. The first episode, you're like, after it's over, you're like, what the hell is that? And
I kind of been doing that
then
with
you
the
watch
Umbrella
second
Academy
episode.
a little bit.
I like Umbrella Academy a lot. That's a good show. The first 2 seasons are both really good.
I'm halfway through season 2 right now.
Yeah, but it's an interesting one. Definitely, it's like every episode leaves you with one of those kind of like, whoa, where does this go? Get you to click the next one. The show I've been kind of binging lately is a show called The Sinner. Which was actually came out on USA. They just put a new season out a couple of months, but it follows Bill Pullman as like a detective character, and it's kind of like an anthology series. He's like the only guy who stays present in all of it, but it's a new case each season, and it basically is just exploring like what makes good people go over the deep end and make violent, decisions, basically. But pretty interesting because in each season there's also like another really good actor that's in it. The first one's Jessica Biel, who is really awesome in that season, and then it kind of goes from there. So
well, it's like Fargo, the TV series.
Yep.
Every year is a completely different story. And I liked the last one with Chris Rock. It didn't do very well at all from a viewership standpoint.
Yeah.
But I thought it was awesome.
Amen.
But you can watch it, I guess, on demand now.
Yeah.
So whatever. But anyway, so the Sixers just ended a 4-game losing streak with a win over a tanking OKC team, and Ben Simmons made a surprise return.
Yeah.
And he was sick for a long time. They lost all 4 games that he didn't play in, and kind of shut a lot of people up for now, his haters, that, think that they, let's trade him. Oh, how'd that work?
Yeah,
out?
this is
straight
this is
George Hill
definitely the
for him.
biggest drop off you've seen without Ben on the court.
Yeah. In all fairness, those 4 games, 2 of them were against a really good Milwaukee Bucks team. The other one was against a Suns team that has
And when
been
Embiid was
incredible
out,
in
we
the
had
West.
a lot lesser teams we were playing against.
And then the other one was the Warriors, which you would say, okay, we should beat them. Yeah, maybe when Steph Curry doesn't drop nearly 50 points, you'd have maybe a shot at it.
But Ben wasn't there to defend him.
Yeah, like he wasn't
See,
he
now
was
you're
there
hating on
to
him,
defend
you know?
Kyrie Irving. No, I mean it's not a hater thing. I think it's just one of
No,
those things where there's nuance that is needed to be talked about in all of these games, and to suggest that Ben Simmons is a bigger piece of the pie than Embiid because these other games.
I don't
That's
think
all.
anybody's ever trying to make that kind
there
of
are
argument.
people who are making the comparison, which is again, I would just pump the brakes
But
on
they're
that.
both.
That's all.
They one thing is for sure, they are both kind of unique players.
Oh yeah.
They have their own. You can't really compare them to anybody.
No.
People are going to be comparing people to them.
Yeah, the closest thing to Ben Simmons is a Giannis. You know what I mean? As far as like somebody who has the length, who can defend, who can do these other things, play kind of that point forward kind of spot.
And he's fierce when he's out there, when he's going to the basket.
Exactly.
Like that.
The only difference is Simmons is more of a passer and somebody who facilitates versus
Neither one
Giannis
of them
being
can
more
shoot
of
a
like
lick
an
from the
alpha.
outside.
Yeah.
Neither one of them can shoot a lick from the outside.
No, I mean, well, Giannis at least is trying though. I mean, he shoots low 30s. It's not great, but it gets teams to at least respect it enough to where he's got that ability to take literally 2 steps from the top of the 3-point line and dunk it on you.
But
like it gets them that space.
But they are in the same boat as the Sixers. They have
Oh, yeah.
absolutely nothing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
With all these
I
stars.
don't know, you guys got to watch out for the Knicks, though. They're really starting to surge.
Hey, man. I mean, the Knicks are that young, scrappy team that I think is making the steps in the right direction. But, I don't think that's just, New York is always going to be a little bit more bullish on their team one way or the other.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I'll put it this way.
funny.
It's good for basketball. When the Knicks are good, it's good for basketball.
No question about it. That's what I was going to say. The NBA is a lot more fun when the Knicks are good.
Yeah.
And it's funny, up there, they can have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and all these stars, but if the Knicks are playing well, Brooklyn who?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's on the team.
Nope.
The Knicks rule New York,
Yeah.
period. And if they start really making some noise, they'll forget those guys.
100%.
So interesting.
I have a question for you, Al. I want to know, because you're not big on mock drafts and drafts like that.
I just
Listen, this is not everybody's cup of tea. There's nothing wrong with it. You're not about speculating. You just want facts. You want to know what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, mock drafts are fun. I mean, it's a cottage industry. It's
oh
a
my
lot
God,
of
yeah.
fun.
There's a
But
lot of big websites that
but
started
it's-
just because
but it's-
dudes do mock drafts all
Yeah.
day. There's guys who do mock drafts mid-season. I mean, like it gets a little outrageous.
See, I'm a life experience person. I want to be on the field covering the team. I can't do that right now. But I've never been a guy
I want to put you
that's-
somewhere else in this question. I want to
ahead.
put you in the war room.
Okay.
Howie hands you the phone. You get to make the call. And in realistic fashions, you can say the big names are off the off the draft already. You're still sitting at 12. Who is Al Thompson?
So I'm not allowed to pick Patrick Surtain?
You can.
No, Patrick Surtain's a realistic pick there. It'd be like
I
all
would
right, I want like one of the top 2. I want
Jamar Chase.
I want Jamar Chase. Obviously, he will not be past the 5th or 6th spot.
Well, if you're doing this objectively,
Yes.
How many Super Bowls have been won by that superstar wide receiver? When the Eagles had it, they lost. T.O.
Yeah.
Right? And Julio Jones. Every big game, what happens? They find a way to lose. And and the teams that win it are these guys like with New England that are just like these really scrappy, heady guys, right? That know how to get open for Brady, and they win all these Super Bowls. And I would think that, but to saying that, I would go after Patrick Surtain because they need that second cornerback more than they need anything.
Yeah.
And the Phillies the other night, Odubel Herrera of all things, right? He hasn't got a hit yet, right? But he made that over-the-shoulder catch to win the 2-1 game. Those are the kind of games you're going to have to win in any sport.
Yeah.
And the Eagles, if you don't have great corners, you're not going to win those kind of games.
Yeah.
Right? So if Patrick Surtain's there, He's my guy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing you said there, which I think is something that really needs to be highlighted, which is great corners. You need at least 2 of them in the NFL. You probably need 3 with how many teams are going, 3 wide, and are throwing the ball around as much as they are.
But doesn't having 2 like stars, at corner.
Yeah.
And then Avonte Maddox kind of elevates. They're like the high tide.
If Avonte Maddox is in there in your slot corner, you're feeling pretty good about it you have somebody good on the outside there.
Yeah, so it's Patrick Surtain would make the other 2 guys elevate him. Mm-hmm. He's like the high tide, raises all the boats, right? Yeah. So, and I think in the in the second round they have to address the linebackers. They got to get a star.
Yeah,
they haven't had a star.
I agree with that very much.
The only time they ever get a star is by accident, and then one time they got him, Jordan Hicks. He always got hurt.
Yeah.
So it's they gotta be, they have to attack that rather than just hope somebody falls into their laps, in round 6.
Oh, yeah, well, 100% there. I mean, I think I was talking about it with, I think, my dad actually today, because he was asking me, what do you think's going to happen? Like, what do you see, as with the needs? And, corner, like you brought up, is an obvious one. They need a cornerback 2, obvious, Darius Slay, but not even just a cornerback 2. They need a cornerback 2 now who could probably eventually become a cornerback 1 in a year or 2 because, Darius Slay is getting older, and they're going to need a replacement out there. They're going to need a playmaker, whether that be the generational talent at tight end like Kyle Pitts would have been, or, one of those good 3 wide receivers that are coming out, a linebacker like you brought up there, and then the other sneaky need on this team right now is edge rusher. They need somebody who's going to be able to push to be a real number 2 opposite of Brandon Graham right now. And then, again, Brandon Graham, another guy who's getting older in the tooth, somebody who can replace that in a year or 2 going forward. You might think you have it with Josh Sweat, but he's still question. You know what I mean? He's on the ascension, but
I want somebody
not
in there
a
now
full thing.
Because Brandon Graham can't be this first half linebacker. He got 7 sacks in his first half of the season, and he got 1.5 the rest of the way.
Right.
So made his Pro Bowl finally. God bless him.
Mm-hmm.
But you need a guy. He wasn't there down the stretch.
Yeah.
He still played okay. He wasn't choking or anything like that. But he was not making the big plays he was making in the first half. Obviously, that has to do with not conditioning. Mm-hmm. You're just older.
Yeah.
And if you have a bright young talent at linebacker, or as a pass rusher, to spell him in those first 8 games, then you have Brandon Graham, who's going to win you a Super Bowl like he did in 2017, because it was at the very end of the game when you needed him to be, greatest play in arguably in Eagles history.
Exactly. And the other part of it too is with Derek Barnett. I mean, we haven't seen enough from him to say that he's a piece going forward.
I think 10 million reasons why he would be gone maybe in this draft.
Yeah.
People are talking about Zach Ertz as being a guy who could be gone. One of my notes I made was Derek Barnett. I mean, he's $10 million. He's still, they need some cap space. He's still very questionable, on how good he can be. If he was cheaper or he restructured, maybe I would be like, okay, then he's fine for at least this year. But
with Derek Barnett is not a guy like Fletcher Cox who still has that. He keeps coordinators up at night.
Yeah,
he does.
He never did.
And,
He never did, though. That's the problem.
Derek Barnett does not have that.
No, he's never kept anybody up at night for 5. He's never made anybody's afternoon crappy.
No, the only thing he did was just maybe give Jim Schwartz a good night rest because for whatever reason he was his biggest fan, and he's no longer here, which kind of does make that expendable a little bit there on that end.
And where's Jim Schwartz now?
Yeah,
he's not. He is back coaching.
Fishing. He's not coaching, right?
Oh, he's coaching.
Oh, where's Jim Schwartz?
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Right, Tennessee.
Really?
He's not the defensive coordinator. He is the assistant to the defensive coordinator, something along those lines.
They made him a title for him.
Some sort of title, like where he's probably just helping.
Look, I tell you what, when he gets going in his press conferences, he was the best on the Eagles staff. I thought just somebody talked football. He hated it. All right. And he might have taken that job because he's technically not the coordinator, so he's not obligated to do press conferences.
Yeah.
Right.
And obviously he didn't want to be here
at it.
any more than Doug Peterson wanted to be here, Carson Wentz. Like, you think he's going to want to stay with this? And I think even if they offered him the job as head coach, I don't even think he would want to be here because you see how you're treated.
There's no media there. I've been there. And nobody covers the Titans.
No, I mean he was an excellent coach out there on the defensive side too in previous years with the Titans. So I mean,
Schwartz.
Yeah, Schwartz was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But it's pretty laid back
Yeah.
in Nashville.
I'm going to
That
expand
team.
on my question to you as well.
Go ahead.
So, all right, I'll let you pick the reasonable
Surtain.
Patrick Surtain. I'll let you pick the reasonable one. So let's get a little not so reasonable.
Oh, now you're gonna, I don't know. I'm not a college football guy.
No, but
Go
all right,
ahead.
I'm going to give you an easy one now.
Okay.
Patrick Surtain, Jamar Chase,
The wide receiver.
and Micah Parsons is available.
Of those three?
Of those three, or they move up or whatever. You have those three to choose from at your pick. Who's Al
Patrick
Thompson?
Surtain.
You still taking
Oh,
Surtain?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Corners is so
I'm not
pivotal.
disagreeing with you. How I'm just saying, like,
A
I think
great
sometimes when you see this
secondary-
generational player, it's kind of hard to walk away, especially with the Pitts, especially how much this team has to.
You said Kyle Pitts?
Yeah.
You said
we said,
one
we
of
were
three-
saying Chase, Parsons, and
You didn't say
Oh,
Kyle
I'm sorry.
Pitts.
I didn't say Pitts. You're right. All right, but
You said
I'll
Chase.
yeah,
and
Chase.
well, it's a no-brainer to me. It's
All right, well, fine.
if you
Take Chase.
Kyle
I'll put
Pitts,
Pitts in.
If it's Kyle Pitts,
Yeah.
I'm taking Kyle
Okay.
Pitts.
yeah, I was
You
like,
can't turn down the
that's
generational
that's
player.
just. I mean, that's one of those things with Kyle Pitts. It's like you just figure the rest out, man.
Yeah.
Like you don't need anything else. I mean, that's the one spot. But the thing that I look at with that trade back from 6 to 12, which is why I think it was a smart move,
Well,
is that
somebody will
I
draft
think Kyle
Pitts
Pitts
and
is
they'll,
way gone.
He'll elope with somebody and go to the Peace
Yeah,
Corps.
I mean, I look at this draft and I see, like, again, Atlanta right now. They could draft a quarterback, but they just restructured Matt Ryan's contract. They're probably out of the quarterback, sweepstakes. They would probably love the trade back, but the Bengals aren't taking a quarterback. The Dolphins aren't taking a quarterback. The Lions, maybe, but they just traded for Jared Goff, and the new GM there was the guy who drafted Jared Goff, so he's probably okay with Jared Goff. And so what's there to be to pay the premium price to move up to 4? There's really no asking price that would make sense unless the Falcons are willing to really sell themselves short to really stockpile assets. Well, if you're sitting there at 4 and you got to take the best player available on the board, the best player that makes the most amount of sense, you just brought in Arthur Smith, who did a really awesome job with Jonnu Smith, for several years in Tennessee. Imagine what he could do with Kyle Pitts. I think he's gone at 4 to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like that trade back makes sense. I think he's gone. I think Chase is gone. So then you're sitting there at 6 anyway with a lot of the same decisions that you're going to be making at 12 between some of these other players, which is why I was really in favor
I don't think
of
Patrick
that
Surtain's
trade
at
back.
12 for some. I just don't feel that it's.
I don't think he is either, but I think that there's
But
again,
9, and
possibility
that's
of-
I think that's through the person they're looking at. If they try to bump up a couple spots, it's definitely a Surtain person. I don't think they're jumping up for Smith or
Apparently, Jalen Waddle is somebody who they're really interested in, and Jalen Waddle is my number 2 receiver in this class. I have him over Smith because of the big playability. I mean, people use it all the time, but he really is. He's like Tyreek Hill without all of the off the field stuff. He's got electricity that he can bring, and we know that this team has sold themselves with speed options in the past. So I know if there's a chance that the team has Jalen Waddle there on their board, that would be the only one that I think would take them out of maybe going defense. Because I think on their list right now, what they're thinking is they brought in Shane Steichen, they brought in Nick Sirianni. Both of these guys have big offensive backgrounds, specifically with wide receivers. They probably, with bad hubris, think that these guys can fix their wide receiver room and get anything out of Arcega-Whiteside, get the best out of Jalen Reagor, figure out if Travis Fulgham can be a full-time athlete and a full-time player for them. They probably think that, but they don't have the corners that really run Gannon's system. So that's kind of where I think the other part of it comes is like if Surtain or J.C. Horn are right there on the board, I don't think the Eagles can help themselves, even if one of those other wide receivers that some Eagles fans would much rather them draft because, again, offense sells. It's really funny. I was listening to a podcast earlier, and they said, every time I make a mock draft and the team or the fans roast me, I just draft a wide receiver next time for them, and they're all happy with it because everybody likes wide receivers. And it's like that's kind of been the discourse this season is like, we got to fix the offense. That means we have to get the wide receiver. I wouldn't be against it if it's somebody like Jalen Waddle or Devonta Smith. I actually think both of those guys could elevate this team and could, more importantly, give you a better evaluation of what Jalen Hurts is as a quarterback going forward. I just think that this team is going to be looking on that defensive side of the ball and thinking, we got to get somebody who's going to run this system out because that's more important to them. And that's why
I think the whole thing is having a healthy offensive line. for that offense.
Oh, I mean, the trenches is where everybody wins, right? But
Yeah.
Other
Not
teams.
the sexy pick. Of
Yeah,
course.
but again, another teams like that, and then the other part of it too is like Penei Sewell will more than likely be long gone, and Rashawn Slater, maybe he's there, he's probably not, and if neither of those guys are there, I don't see an offensive lineman at pick 12 that makes sense compared to going with one of the corners or the best available wide receiver on the board.
And right now, I believe we do have Dr. Sean McMillan is joining us.
Hello.
Hello, Doc.
Doc, you there?
Dr. McMillan from
Paging
Virtual
Dr.
Health.
McMillan.
Hello. We cannot hear you.
I'm seeing if it's picking him up or not. It says it's him.
Dr. McMillan, are you there? Do you want to try back? Because it's whatever's happening is not happening.
Yeah, he just hung up. I'll give him a
And he's
second.
going to try it back here in a second. Dr. McMillan, of course, is the chief of orthopedics and doctor of orthopedic sports medicine at not Lords. It used to be Lords.
Yeah, Virtual
Health Health System in Burlington County and Cherry Hill. He's also an assistant professor at orthopedic surgery at Rowan University. And he's always a good guy to talk to. Dr. McMillan. Hey, Doc. You there?
Yeah, how are we doing?
All right, how are you?
Yeah, I'm here, sir. How are you?
All right.
Doing
And
great.
I just gave you your big build-up, so we don't have to say it again.
Fair enough.
And, but thanks for joining us tonight. There's been talk all week that Zach Ertz is going to be, bundled. Sound like an insurance commercial here. They're going to bundle him with some picks and move him. And if I wanted to ask you, he had quietly had some off-season ankle surgery. Ta-da. And if you're an interested team, Doc, what would you be looking for? What are some of the things you want to test?
So obviously you'll examine the medical records, and what they're looking to see is, what type of surgery did he have? Was it related to an arthritic condition where maybe he had some bone chips or some sort of defect to the cartilage, or was this simply a matter of tendons that were maybe giving us some trouble, some partial tearing, because they'll dictate the longevity of the ankle. You think about the injury that Lane Johnson had and how he recovered. They're going to want to look at how his post-operative recovery has been, and then if he gets the green light from all those things, the teams will move on if there's reservations, or if he's not on track to return. Obviously, that's going to scare teams off a little bit.
Yeah, and the ankle surgery with Lane Johnson didn't work out too well. So it's I guess an ankle's a tough thing to really gauge.
Yeah, I mean, the ankle is the building block of the entire lower body, right? So if you don't have a good footing, literally, you're not going to be able to do the things that you need to. And in the case of Wayne Johnson, you think about a man that big and what he has to do and the amount of force he was putting on that repair. It wasn't ideal, and he tried to rush back a little early. And at the end of the day, it just didn't work out for his positive. Not to say that Zach's going to be in the same spot, because I don't know the extent of Zach's injury. But by and large, if given the appropriate time, ankle injuries can come back and do quite well.
Hey, Doc, just kind of staying on the ankle injury thing, but talking about maybe a prospect that the Eagles could be looking at here in the draft, or maybe even your New York Giants there at pick 11. You got Jalen Waddle, who had a right high ankle fracture in October, came back, though, in January to play in the national championship game, but only a modest 3 catches for 34 yards, didn't return any kicks in the title game, and a guy who has made his entire hay by being a speed and agility type guy. When you're looking at an injury like that and kind of gauging whether or not that guy can get back to full strength, what things are you looking for?
Yeah, so again, luckily for him, he's young and he got it addressed, and that's probably something that was talked about, with him and the team. The fact that he had surgery early to address this rather than trying to hobble back into the game early and maybe damage it further. Sometimes with the surgical fixation, it's more of a definitive approach. So it should, give him less of a chance of re-injuring this, down the road when he's playing in the league. Again, not knowing the full medical records, you think about what Tua had done with the tight ropes. I believe it was something very similar to what he had as well. You'd expect him to be, again, showing off at pro day like he did and running good times. If that's what you're looking for. And then obviously you're looking to see how he cuts, making sure there's no, ill effects and loss of break, because his whole game is speed. And if he's not able to do those things, it's a problem. I think any team that drafts him realizes it's going to be for the long term, so they might even take him a little slow coming in, even though he's going to say and his agent's going to say that he's 100% ready to go today.
Yeah. And switching gears a little bit, I sent you a note on this. There's something I saw that came out just a couple days ago in the medical.net news, and about a new study by Henry Ford Health System published in Arthroscopy. It's not something I just click to in the morning when I get up, but it's a Journal of Orthopedic, Arthroscopic and Related Surgery may signal a first step towards eliminating the use of opioids to relieve pain after knee surgery. Did you get a chance to take a look at that, or can you comment on that? You can get rid of narcotics. That would be incredible, right?
Yeah, so opioid-sparing surgery is not new. It's actually something that's in the last 5 years become a focus of orthopedics for myself as a personal passion, as well as the virtual health system and many other health systems across the country. And what we're realizing is, that there's other ways to skin a cat, so to speak. So the crux of that paper looked at, are we able to, adequately control pain for patients after a knee arthroscopy, where that's a minimally invasive procedure to clean up a meniscus tear. Do we need to use opioids such as Percocet or Vicodin, or can we use other multimodal, meaning a combination of anti-inflammatory meds and Tylenols and other factors or medications? Can we use that in combination and obviate the need for the opioids? And their study found that was in fact true. And you and I have spoken about this before. We published papers right here at Virtual looking at the recovery and need for narcotics after rotator cuff surgery. And with our multimodal approach, again, same thought. We're able to decrease or even eliminate the need for narcotics, which is a huge change from even when I trained, 10 years ago, where the old adage was, make sure the patient has enough pain medication so they don't, have to suffer through the weekend, right? So you routinely give someone 30 or 40 pills, not trying to get anyone hooked, but just trying to keep them comfortable, right? And now we've learned, maybe that's not a great idea, not just for the patient, but, you leave those pills laying around in the closet. That's just begging for a problem from, family members, from friends, from whoever. So I think these papers, as they continue to roll out, they're going to awaken the other orthopedic community physicians, and also for patients, many of whom suffer from either recovery or addiction. It's going to give them new hope, because I can tell you we'll see many patients that will come in and say, I was referred to you because I heard you don't use narcotics or you have options, and I'm in recovery and I was afraid.
Yeah, and it's it used to be in the in pro sports, especially the NFL, was that marijuana was outlawed. I mean, you had any trace of that in your system, you could be suspended or whatever. But now the push is to get medical marijuana involved in as a form of pain medicine. Where is that standing right now? And my question is also, long term, it can't possibly be in the future of the medical community that medical marijuana, the chemicals that are in it that help with pain relief, have anything to do with smoking it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So as of right now, the majority of the medical marijuanas that are out there are meant more for ingestion, whether you're cooking it and placing it into other foods, or there's obviously lozenges that are out there and creams as well, CBD creams and oils. There are a subset of patients that do smoke it, and they are allowed to do that. I don't think that's where the NFL is heading with that. And by and large, the majority of the patients that are taking medical marijuana are doing it for intractable pain. They're not doing it to get high, and quite honestly, the way the medication and the prescriptions are written, it's not really something that's feasible. Instead, it's more meant to be palliative and decrease the pain. I know there's, this big sort of stigma around the marijuana, especially when it comes to pro athletes and pro sports. I think, truthfully, the physicians that are part of the NFL advisory board are looking for different ways to provide their players pain relief without the risk of addiction. And I think that's a delicate balance, and something where they're getting feedback from their own players daily, as well as the medical community. And right now, this is a viable option to a degree for some of the players, as opposed to opioids.
Hey, Doc, just kind of changing the gears a little bit, keeping it in Philly, but changing the sports. A player who was acquired this year who was supposed to be pretty good for the Phillies and be a difference maker inside their bullpen was Archie Bradley. He was put on the 10-day injured list with an oblique injury. They're calling it a oblique strain. But because of that, that was kind of, drawn out into a 3 to 4 week injury. What type of recovery process, what things are they looking for from him, and how can an oblique injury basically affect the pitching motion of a player like Archie Bradley?
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't want to say this word funny, but there's actually been a rash of these oblique injuries across the league. If you read the injury reports, Yastrzemski for the Giants is having that, as is Mondesi for the Royals, and a couple other guys that are out there too. But basically, it's for lack of a better term, it's a pull of the rib cage, or it's a muscle along the flank. And when you think about what a pitcher does as they're throwing, they're rotating or torquing their upper body to be able to come through and release the ball, and for a hitter to be able to swing through the zone and generate power. So it's a real finicky injury because you might feel great in all your drills and all your treatments, but when you start going at it 90-95%. It's a little twinge, and that's going to set you back. Typically, these are 4-week injuries if you treat them right, but they can drag out sometimes even longer, especially if the players had this injury before. So it's something where the Phillies are just going to be really, really cautious with Archie because they need him for the rest of the season, and they don't want to risk getting him back there too soon and have him go back out again beginning of May.
Hey, Doc, is one question before we let you go is what do you think the Giants are going to do tomorrow, and what do you think they should do as far as their draft?
Yeah. So, the idea of Gettleman trading, I know, has been sort of bantered around, and, he'll probably stay put as much as, there's been talk of them trading back. I mean, I think, truthfully, they need a difference maker on the defensive side, whether it's Parsons from Penn State or the kid Payne coming out of Michigan. Those are names that have been mentioned. Wouldn't surprise me if they went the other way and just tried to surround Daniel Jones with an offensive playmaker because this is his make-or-break year, and maybe they try to get him one of those remaining receivers. But it'll be interesting. My hope is that they get someone that we don't scratch our heads and say, what are they doing? Clearly they know more than we do, but at the same time, you like to be able to feel good about the pick that's coming out.
Yeah. All right, Doc, thanks a lot for joining us today. Dr. Sean McMillan is the Chief of Orthopedics and Director of Orthopedic Sports Medicine at Virtua Health and Burlington County and Cherry Hill. Additionally, he is the Assistant Professor of Orthopedic Surgery at Rowan University. Doc, as we always ask you, how can people get in touch with you?
Yep. So, Al, like I tell you before, we're seeing patients in person as well as through Zoom if we need to due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The best way to reach us for our Cherry Hill or Burlington office would be the 856-470-9029 number.
All right, great. Dr. McMillan, thanks so much for being a guest today on Football Stories Facebook Live.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, take care, Doc. Yeah, I mean, Dave Gettleman, I don't think has traded back one time in his entire career as a GM. He's always stayed put. He doesn't trade up, doesn't trade back. He's just kind of there, and that's what he does. And so I'm with Doc there. I think that whatever the best player on the board at 11 is going to be for them, that's who they're going to be picking. And I would also say that a player like Parsons, a player like Kwity Paye are totally in play for them. Getting the playmaker on the offensive side is too. The other one that's kind of a dark horse is, again, if Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater do slip to pick 11, I mean, they might have to go out and still fortify that offensive line because, there's still some question marks there even after drafting a first-round left tackle last year who did not play up to expectation. They have those things. And with a guy like Rashawn Slater, the talk is he played tackle in college, but he could be a guard in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Maybe that versatility allows them to go get a guy like that to say, hey, he can play one of two spots for us. We just got to figure out where he fits, but we know he fits somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, some people feel very confident right now with the O-line as it is going forward. Health still remains a huge question mark across the board. I mean, even Jason Kelsey, who's an Iron Man of sorts, he still has a lot, still has some question marks. He's getting older. I mean, of course, Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson, both the wrong side of 30, and both are constantly getting injured, not off the field more than they're on the field right now. But being healthy, that's still the center to right side of the line still looks pretty good. The Jordan Mailata, experiment went well. Could it be? I don't know. Could he say he's Andre Dillard's replacement? Could he be your full-time left tackle of the future? Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, possibly. I'm glad. The one good thing that came out of the onslaught of injuries in that dismal 2020 year, in that constant carousel of an offensive line, is we got to see him finally. Like, it was kind of, I don't want to say make or break, but kind of that's what it was. Like, I mean, you've been here for so long. Are you going to be able to play or not? I mean, Jack Driscoll, I mean, when he was healthy, once again, was able to play. So, I mean, there's some guys that they drafted are still on the practice squad and stuff like that, but I don't see them going first round for I mean, unless they really want to shore up that line, which would have been nice last year. But, you know, and they could have done that too, but they took Jalen Hurts. No,
I mean, for the Birds too, I mean, the other part of it too is like getting somebody who might have guard center versatility, I think, is more important for them. Quinn Miners, you know, out of Whitewater, could be a guy who's there, Wisconsin Whitewater. He's a D3 guy, but was invited to the Senior Bowl, and who's probably, you know, should go within the first 3 rounds. He could be a pick that they make there to kind of say, hey, he's a guy who can step right in and play guard while Brooks is, maybe recovering still. Maybe he's not ready, but then could potentially be the center of the future. Landon Dickerson out of Alabama, Creed Humphrey, Kendrick Green out of Illinois, other guys like that who have that versatility, I think makes a little bit more sense for them.
And they like that versatile guy. I mean, Vaitai.
Yeah.
Talk about it. I mean, he was kind of like, you know, he wasn't a huge loss when it first happened, but he's, you know, he was a lot. The versatility that he brought, we saw the loss there because trying to get, you know, even Andre Dillard going from left to right the year before was like
a nightmare.
Yeah, it was a mind-blowing experience, which I listen, I'm not saying it isn't. When you do something so much one way, and even just a change of a hand can make a world of a difference. It's a balance thing,
right?
So I get it, and I get it 100%. But it's just, you know, you keep hearing the reports since the day, like the year they drafted him. Is he's, you know, the term uses? I hate using that term soft on people
right.
when I don't know them well enough. I feel it's kind of like keyboard tough guys who make fun of people on Twitter and Facebook and all that, where you can call somebody soft. But I'm sure if Andre Dillard was sitting right in front of you,
right,
the word soft wouldn't be coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, going up against Brendan Graham every week in practice would not make somebody soft. You know, going against, you know, those kind of guys, like, you can't be soft in the NFL to get to that point to be first-round pick. Now, that doesn't mean that you play with an edge. Doesn't mean that you have that other gear to kind of kick into, because we've also seen guys who are like that too. But, yeah, again, like, I agree with you. I hate using that term for a guy like that too. I mean, he's a 300-pound man.
Yeah, definitely not to his face, at least.
Right,
you know?
exactly. Like, it's not going to be the case. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's interesting for the Eagles because, again, how many directions they can go in. You know, you were throwing some of those hypotheticals there at Al about, like, what would you do if this was a situation? You know, I'm looking at this board, and the way that I see it is a little opposite of the way that Al sees it. I see cornerback depth at the back end of the first round, at the early second round picks. Guys who I'd be more than comfortable with, especially rolling out as a CB2, and possibly could potentially become CB1s. Trade-up candidates, it could involve maybe taking a risk on a guy like Caleb Farley, who was, again, like Sidney Jones, a consensus top 10 draft pick, but because of a pre-draft injury, is more than likely going to fall to at least the back half of the first round, but maybe even out of the first round in its entirety. I'd be more than willing to take that gamble on a guy like that. Greg Newsome. I love Greg Newsome. I think he has incredible versatility to play man-to-man, can be like that guy like Darius Slay is, where he can play both, but could step right in and be an excellent zone corner right away, too. Eric Stokes and Tyson Campbell, both out of Georgia. Asante Samuel Jr. He had his dad. He looked pretty good. Maybe go after the son. He looks pretty good,
Actually,
too.
tackles better than his dad.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So there's guys out there who I'd be really comfortable with rolling out there at that other cornerback spot that I think you might not be able to get there. When it comes to real playmakers, yeah, you're right. I mean, Brian Baldinger brought it up when he was on the show a few weeks back, and he said, you know, Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams and DK Metcalf, these are great wide receivers that were not found in the first round. They were second-round draft picks that were
passed over them.
Right, they were picked, you know, at a spot there. I don't see this wide receiver class as deep from that perspective. I think if you need a slot corner, Hell, you can get one in the 5th and 6th round, and that guy might be able to step in. A slot receiver, he can step right in and probably produce for you in this draft. It is littered with slot receivers. But if you're talking like you need an X or you need a Z, you need a guy to be a difference maker on the outside, something that we don't necessarily know that Jalen Reagor can do. We definitely don't think J.J. Arcega-Whiteside can do. And Travis Fulgham is as big of a question mark as there is because we have seen a guy for a couple week stretch literally do, in fantasy football at least, what no receiver had done. And then we saw him kind of fall off the face of the earth because maybe injury, Alshon Jeffrey coming back, usage, whatever it might be.
You had both at the same time almost, Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson coming back. And then obviously there was a lot of conflict going on between the coaching staff, the head coach, and management.
Right.
And I think that kid got caught in the middle of it. I hope he did.
Yeah.
Because if he's going to come in here and get a fresh start and an objective set of eyes on him, I think, I was really impressed.
I mean, I was too, and I think he could be a good guy. I just think it's one of those things to where it's like you can't count that egg before it hatches either.
No.
He could be what he was that couple week stretch. He could be closer to what he was towards the end. More than likely, he's somewhere in the middle. And being somewhere in the middle on that, is that really where you want to put it as saying, hey, that guy is my go-to, go up and get him receiver for Jalen Hurts? Because the other part of it, too, is chemistry. Not saying chemistry can't be built in an offseason, can't be shown, but it was obvious that Carson Wentz liked Travis Fulgham a little bit more than Jalen Hurts did. Because even when he was on the field, it looked like Jalen Hurts wasn't targeting him as much.
Wasn't that his buddy, though?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't really know. I mean, I think those are all questions.
I remember in an interview post game that Jalen even said that it was just he was so happy it was not Fulgham. Who was it? Trying to remember. It wasn't Fulgham.
Reagor or
no,
Boston Scott or
why am I just completely blanking out?
Greg
Ward.
Yeah.
Greg Ward. That's his buddy. I'm sorry. That was Greg
Yeah.
Ward, not Fulgham. Greg Ward was his buddy, and he was his first touchdown, and he was happy it was him. He said all that. Fulgham wasn't even in the game plan. I mean, because the thing about when he stepped on the field to play finally, Jalen, it was here comes Alshon Jeffrey all of a sudden. They go, I feel so much better now. I can play now. It's not Carson Wentz on the field. Look at me. I'm a happy guy. I mean, that's why, of all people, you want to use the term soft or you want to use the term a locker room issue, Alshon Jeffrey. I will thank you for bringing me as being part of the Super Bowl team, but that's about as far as it goes.
Has anybody picked him up?
Nope. He is still out there as far as I know. I was literally just going to look this up because, unless it flew under the radar and I literally just did not hear about it.
Deshaun Jackson did get picked up.
Deshaun Jackson did?
I think he did.
He's in L.A.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he did.
Sorry.
Alshon.
I just there it is.
I mean, Deshaun is not a headache anymore. He's
not a headache.
He's kind of wise.
He's a different type of headache. He's not a guy who's going to disrupt a locker room per se.
He just can't stop.
He can't stay healthy, and then but that's not his fault in the sense that the Eagles kept him on the active roster for
they were paying him
for 16 games when he can only play 2, or not even 2.
Yeah, and it
is kind of a headache when you cartwheel into the end zone and get hurt again. That is a headache.
I mean, it makes sense for the Rams too, because the Rams don't have first-round draft picks. They haven't had one basically since they've taken Jared Goff. And so, when you're a team that is up against the cap as deep as they are, and don't have the resources to go out and get younger talent, you take shots on guys like Deshaun Jackson because you say, hey, if you can only stay healthy for X amount of games,
if we get him 7 or 8 games,
we'll take it, right?
The difference, yeah.
So they got 2 guys on the outside they can rely on.
But the thing with the Eagles is they have 11 picks right now.
Yeah.
If they start, they could even make that more picks.
Yeah.
They don't have any money.
Right.
So they had to fill up the roster with rookie contracts, right? And it's just a simple numbers game. I mean, I've used this over and over again, but the tic-tac-toe chicken from that event that used to be the commercial radio here, down at the Spectrum and then the Wells Fargo Center, used to play tic-tac-toe with and I think he could do just as good a job and get just as lucky as people making their picks. And so when you have that many picks, you have almost a dozen picks.
But that's,
you got to get lucky.
But
they all can't be.
A lot of it's luck. I mean, there's plenty.
Patrick Mahomes went number 10.
Well, nobody even knew. I mean, they moved up and sold the farm to get Mitch Trubisky. They could have had Patrick Mahomes. and they didn't have
I'm
Patrick
just
Mahomes.
saying,
You have to have an eye for talent. Yes, you have to be lucky at times. But the problem in lies is
I'll give Reed credit. He went against the grain, picked Donovan McNabb, ended up being the best quarterback in the history of the franchise statistically, right? And now he gets Mahomes and wins his first Super Bowl.
yeah. And listen, he definitely listen, some people just have an eye for talent. They can kind of like read between the lines and see this guy's might become from a smaller school. You know, I take like a Jerry Rice type situation. You know, there's a guy who came from a smaller school nobody really saw. Yeah. But like and be able to pick that up. Ben Roethlisberger, he didn't come from a big, name school. Like these are guys that, you have to know an eye for talent. You have to try take a chance on them. Carson Wentz was a guy they tried doing that with too as well. I mean, and it wasn't for a lack of being a bad quarterback. There was some, between the ears issue with him, but also a lot of it came from upper management as well, how they handled that situation from the get. But we won't get into that because we all know where I go on that tangent. But my point is that you have to have an eye for talent, but there is, yes, a big chunk of luck that is, it's like hockey. You always call it puck luck. Sometimes you have to get that good bounce and things like that. But, and people roast Howie about the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and DK, you passed over DK Metcalf. So did other teams, you could say, as well.
A number of years in a row, though.
Yeah, but that's where my point is you could have 10 and you're lucky to get one good draft pick. I mean, how many draft picks did we have last year? 8, 9?
Yeah, I think there was. I think they went into it with 10. Yeah. I think they made some trades, the Marquise Goodwin, other things like they kind of did, and I think that got them down to like 8 or 9 that they made.
And how many of these guys do you think could possibly be starting and contributing next year?
Right.
Not this year, but 2022.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, honestly,
go back a draft before that. How many guys are really? I mean, if you go back 5 drafts, I've done this before with you guys. We talked about this to show you. You have your Dallas Goedert. You have
Dallas Goedert,
Miles Sanders,
Dallas Goedert,
and Miles Sanders is still a little bit of a question mark to me. Like he's an all or nothing kind of guy. He's Ryan Howard. It's home run or strikeout. And
poor man's Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Miles Sanders, I mean, you could say that. Obviously, becoming the same school, a lot of the same things. The other thing with Miles Sanders, I think, is the maddening part about him was that I don't think he was used properly either. I think there's parts of it that fall back on coaching, not on Deuce necessarily, but on the play calling. And again, we don't know if that play calling was Carson or Doug, right? Because apparently Carson's at the line changing plays over and over again. Like you don't know, which one's which. I think with him too, it's like as a guy who in the pre-draft process made it so known that he was trying to run routes, be a better player out of the backfield, be a better difference maker in the passing game. For whatever reason, the team was just like every obvious passing play to a running back, we're going to put Boston Scott back there or whoever else it was, Corey Clement. They just didn't want to use Miles in that way, and it's like you see the home run ability, you see that stuff.
But he drops passes too.
They all do. All running backs
and let's be honest, he has been. I don't want to peg the term injury prone, but he has
been banged up.
He's
been banged up.
He's not going to be a workhorse guy. He's not.
And that's why, and I keep going back to
your pick. You guys had that running.
Yeah, I'm just saying, just a big bruiser back who, once again, it's like they had a recipe for success in 2017, and they changed the recipe for the rest of the next couple of years.
That shows where you have the front office in a constant clash with the coaching staff.
Yeah.
And at some point, the ownership just, these are my guys. This is my personnel staff. This is my coaching staff, and just let them go. And like you said, for the life of me, is LeGarrette Blount. I mean, he was cheap, and he helped you win he incredibly helped you win a Super Bowl. He didn't have 18 touchdowns like the year before he had with New England. That's the way they used him. But his yards per carry, that's all they used him for in New England, was to punch it in at the end. But why they didn't bring him back? I mean, and he ended up going to Detroit, where he kind of, that's where running backs go to die. Even out of the draft, they go there to die, right?
I was so confident
DeAndre Swift was supposed to be the big
star.
DeAndre
Swift was going to be really good. I mean, he was good for when they used him, but still, I mean, there and then Kerryon Johnson, another guy who I was convinced was going to be a good NFL pro. They have to go out and draft DeAndre Swift because they don't use him properly and don't do the right things with him. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot there.
Kevin Jones from O'Hara, did he go to
Kevin Jones?
And Kevin Jones, what happened to him at Detroit?
Had a decent first season, and after that became very injury prone. And then I believe he was moved to Tampa Bay, maybe somewhere south there. and didn't play very much, and that was kind of the end of it from there for him.
Yeah, but I'm not saying they should go out and try to think that they can find Derrick Henry, but they need to find somebody somewhere between LeGarrette Blount and Derrick Henry.
And I'm not saying it has to be in the
back.
first or second round or even the third round.
Yeah.
I mean, I think after you get to the third and fourth round, you're going to be really it's going to be dicey. But just even if they just somebody who can block. Like I said, if we had a guy, if it wasn't a 5'5", 112-pound running back who could block for Carson Wentz last year, when he had more time to throw, we've been worrying about people coming up from behind him and snapping him in half. As much. I don't know.
I mean, Derrick Henry was a second-round pick himself. I mean, he was.
Yeah,
I mean, like I say, you don't have to get that guy like in Saquon territory. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that. You can still get that difference maker a little later. So, I mean, again, we'll see how it all goes. But I do think that another back is important because I like Miles Sanders. I like his usage to be more in the passing game as well. I like them to expand his role. But you still don't want to necessarily expand the touches too much. You want somebody else who's going to spell him. You just can't have Boston Scott being the guy who's getting the other chunk of those touches. You need it to be somebody a little bit more reliable.
I'm actually
like
over
a
Boston
Stevenson.
Scott, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things.
Maybe
where
you're number 3 at most, but he's not a number 2 and definitely not a number 1.
It was a Doug Peterson fascination. I think.
It was a Darren Sproles try to retread, and Darren Sproles is an anomaly.
Yeah,
I don't know how many times I have to say that.
Peterson loved.
And Darren Sproles came here late in his career. He is not somebody that you're going to keep picking these little stocky short guys who are going to be able to break and go into a bottom of a pile and come out clean as a whistle. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
When it does, great. You found them, awesome. But if you sit there and try to make somebody that, it's never going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
We'll take a break. This is Football Stories Facebook Live. We'll be back with more after these few messages. Our sponsor, Nancy Kowalik, broker-owner at Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, says her market in South Jersey experiencing a seller's market. Homes are selling for 100% of asking price or more, and they're selling fast. Homes are receiving multiple offers, which turn into bidding wars as soon as they premiere on the first open house. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is the #1 real estate brokerage in South Jersey. Their homes sell 46% faster, and sale prices are nearly 3% higher than competing brokerage listings, according to the 2019 Bright MLS statistics. If you're looking to sell your home fast and for top dollar, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. You can visit online at southjerseyteam.com. And if you're thinking about buying a home, Nancy's team of highly trained professionals are standing by to help you find that perfect home, and they're experts in the field. Whether it's a buyer's or seller's market, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start packing.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Need new carpet or flooring? We know. You don't want to pay too much. You want fast, reliable service, a great installation, and be able to choose from a huge selection. Well then, never pay store prices again. Shop at home and save with Smart Carpet and Flooring. Whether you need new hardwood flooring, vinyl flooring, carpet, or tile, Smart Carpet mobile showrooms have all the brands you want and all at great prices. Your time is valuable, and we make it easy for you to get the new floor you want. We even move your furniture. So if you're ready for a new floor from Armstrong, Shaw, Mohawk, Congolium, Bruce, and more, call Smart Carpet and Flooring today at 1-800-526-7847. That's 1-800-526-7847. Smart Carpet and Flooring. Never pay store prices again.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Colonial Marble and Granite. We've revolutionized the way you buy your granite countertops. Unbeatable prices. Visit us online at colonialmarble.net.
Everyone is different. Some get injured while others wear down. At Premier Orthopedics Associates of Southern New Jersey, they customize a treatment plan to meet your needs. Offering the latest techniques and non-invasive procedures, their fellowship-trained specialists will get you back in action. With locations across South Jersey, they're close to home, providing the premier care you expect and deserve. Call or text 856-690-1616 or visit their website at poasnj.com to schedule an appointment. That website address again is poasnj.com.
Football Stories.
Football Stories Facebook Live would like to welcome to its family of advertisers All-American Gutter Protection. All-American Gutter Protection is new to the Delaware Valley, but hardly new to gutter protection and gutters. Located at 975 J. Moore Road, Suite number 4 in Southampton, PA, with a zip of 18966. The number 4 All-American Gutter Protection is 888-323-8090. Take it away, Matt.
Hey, welcome back here to Football Stories Radio Show, live here on Facebook and YouTube. I am Matt Santoleri. We got Al Thompson over here, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, host here of the radio program. Big Al Zaffiri producing the show, as always, and doing double duty as co-host. Before we get back to that show, just want to remind you guys, you can work and play from home, surrounded in luxury and privacy in a premier South Jersey luxury home, listed by Nancy Qualic Real Estate Group. These are dream homes that have it all, designed with luxury and entertaining in mind, with recreation areas, home offices, backyard oasis with in-ground pools, hot tubs, and more. There's a gorgeous 5,700 square foot Mediterranean villa, which boasts a first floor master bedroom suite, custom bar, finished basement with theater room, gym, in-ground pool, and spa solar panels, all on 7.88 private acres. And another incredible luxury home boasting 40,958 square feet with 6 bedrooms, 6 full bathrooms, and a finished walkout basement that will make you feel like you're in your very own private castle. There's also a custom-raised ranch home offering 4,000 square feet of luxury with 4 fireplaces on 26 acres and its very own putting green. Conveniently located within 30 minutes of Philadelphia, less than 2 hours of downtown Manhattan. For more information, call Nancy Qualic Real Estate Group, 856-478-6562, or go to www.southjerseyteam.com. Where are we going here for the last half hour, Al?
Well, we have a couple of things to talk about. I do want to say a shout-out to Andy Lugo. We haven't seen him in a while. He's got some comments on there. You want to check it out? You're welcome to comment.
I was chatting with Andy all this week, talking a bunch of draft stuff. He's a big favor of Devontae Smith there. That's his guy. He did say, stay at 12 and get one of Bama's studs. So I guess he's okay with Jalen Waddle if he's there too. But I know Andy really does like Smith, and that's his pick if he's got the shot.
It's some crazy thing that the Eagles haven't drafted anybody from Alabama in like 2 decades. Some crazy.
Oh, gee, I wonder why our drafting sucks. Yeah. Why would you draft from a program that's pretty much NFL ready? Like, you can almost draft anybody from any of their starting positions, and they could.
Has Alabama been an NFL factory?
I would say so.
Yeah, I mean, and remember the thing is,
question. I'm not saying they haven't.
No, but remember, you're not seeing always the sexy players in the sense of as many times you're going to see a quarterback come out of Alabama be a top guy. Yeah. And maybe even a wide receiver, you're going to get few and far. But your defense, like your defensive line, the linebacker,
Barrett Jones and Chance Warmack didn't exactly light up their teams.
No, they didn't.
Each had 3 national championships between them. And
I'm not saying everyone's coming out as a superstar,
right?
But are they playing? Are they serviceable? I mean. You're not drafting guys from Alabama, and 2 years later they're disappearing into the nebulous world of nothingness because
those two in a way they sort of did.
Yeah, well, all right, those are 2 out of how many?
I mean, I'm just trying to stir an argument here.
Yeah, I know.
But who has been the big stars in the trenches?
Well, I would say Jonathan Allen and De'Aaron Payne, who are both playing for Washington. They're pretty happy with those Alabama draft picks. If you're looking out towards the secondary, you've got guys like Mika Fitzpatrick, who obviously is a big one there. And you look out even further to some of the guys who still have some question marks on them, but we're still confident they'll be pretty good, like Trayvon Diggs, Landon Collins, again, another guy who's playing for Washington, Marlon Humphrey, another guy there. You look at wide receivers, I mean, you got not only just these 2 guys coming out now, but Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs that came out last year. Look back even further, Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones are both Alabama products at wide receiver. They produced them at a good clip. Amari Cooper, another Alabama wide receiver that's also really good. And again, if you even want to stay in the trenches, Raekwon Davis, good defensive end there for Miami. You do got guys like Deontay Hightower up in New England, who is another Alabama product.
Why haven't the Eagles picked any of these
because
guys?
We're the smartest man in the flipping room. That's why. We're the smartest. Oh, we're so smart.
If I hadn't interrupted him, he would still be talking about Alabama players.
This show would run to 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
because that's what I'm saying. If there is
President Biden does go on at 8. So, at least they're doing the pregame stuff. I don't think he goes on.
There's a laundry list of Alabama players, and it ranges. Not all of them are superstars, but they're serviceable, good players. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Al, you're making a great point. Why? There's a lot of whys. Why has the Eagles conducted themselves the way. And I keep going back to this, and I hate saying this. Had 2017 been a fluke, or did he just finally just say, you know what, I'm going to – it's almost like for any older fans out there, the Seinfeld, when George said, I'm doing everything the opposite of what I normally would do, and everything went well for him. Did he do that in 2017?
They supposedly brought Jim Schwartz in because they thought that Doug Peterson
wasn't going to make it.
Mm-hmm. So they just kind of we'll just let this go. And what happened? Carson Wentz breaks out and has an unbelievable season. Frank Reich, who they wanted to get rid of, I heard the year before.
Well, he wasn't going to last 1 year. And then Doug was also 2 years.
Yeah, but I'm saying these guys got together and had the season of their lives.
So that just goes to show they brought guys in who they didn't deem that great, end up being better.
They did deem Carson Wentz, and he was all that.
Yeah.
And then what happened? He got hurt.
They misevaluated his situation. That's what they did wrong. They wouldn't be that good. They mishandled him from the get. Listen, let's just put this out there and put the Carson Wentz conversation to bed in the sense. I'm over him. Let's move on. But if you know something, like there's always nothing. Nobody's perfect. Okay, even the greats, like the GOAT out there, Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. You didn't want Jimmy G on that team, and he's the GOAT. He has how many Super Bowls in his back pocket? So he didn't want somebody who was going to be his heir apparent there. So that makes sense. I get that. There's a very big mental aspect to this game that there shows you where they mishandled it. Not thinking that the detriment of bringing in Jalen Hurts wasn't as big as a ripple effect. Carson said, once I was sat down in the Saints game, I pretty much knew my time could be up here. Now, he knew that there was going to be a question mark of his time the minute they took Jalen Hurts, and then, once again, toting him as being the next great.
If you're the Eagles, this guy, when we needed him the most, kept getting hurt. We're not going to beat this to death, but I think that the minute that the whistle
then why'd you
ended,
sign him to $100 million?
Mismanaged.
Again,
mismanaged. You've got one faction of an organization that is running one way, and you have another faction of the organization that's going in another direction, and you have crazy, unexplainable things like this. But I think that the minute that the time ended in Minneapolis, and they won that Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, Carson was done.
Yeah, that's when
he was never going to be able to come back and match that.
What did I said this as soon as that happened. I said after all the dust settled and I was done celebrating a Super Bowl victory for a little bit in my head, I said Carson Wentz is going to have the biggest uphill battle now. I said us winning with a backup quarterback, I'll take it because I need that win. However, I got it. But us winning that way, the only way Carson Wentz could get the monkey off his back is literally by winning the Super Bowl. And the way that we were set up by the Eagles to do so, by the organization, that wasn't going to happen.
No
matter, I don't care if Carson Wentz was 100% complete passer rating the entire time, like set records, made Tom Brady look like a nothing.
They're laying the groundwork for a completely different team. You have 11 picks this year. Suppose they all make the team. This is a completely different team.
Well, they're going in. I think they have 68 or 69 guys, I think, on the roster right now as we speak. We know they go in with 75, right? There's the first roster into minicamp. So there's still some guys. I mean, obviously, of those players, there's futures contracts and guys who won't ever even make it to minicamp after this draft is up. So I mean, there is room for them to add players. There's also maybe they got some subtractions they got to make on that end.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, whole new coaching staff, whole new set of eyes on these players. That's the big thing. That's what I was saying earlier about, I have this sneaking suspicion that the team is going to go and get somebody who runs Gannon's system over Sirianni's and over Steichen because they have confidence in their ability to coach up some of the wide receivers and Jalen Hurts himself to basically rise their level of play. Whereas with a defensive system, it does really come down to, do you have the pieces or do you not? Like, you could have the best system in the world, but we've seen it time and time again. That wide nine system that we like to run here only matters as much if you have the horses on the outside to get pressure on the quarterback. If you don't, well, all you're doing is leaving your safeties and your corners with so much work on the back end
out to dry.
Exactly. So it doesn't really matter. So that's why, like I said, I had the sneaking suspicion that pick is going to be on the defensive side.
This is also, is Sirianni a head coach in name? He's really just the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Is this a group that they like, this coaching staff, because it's a group that they can, they're starting over with everybody new except for Stoutland and
Moorhead.
Moorhead, but they can kind of go in and say, hey, this is the way we want to do things here, and they're confident that these guys will follow that direction. Whether it's the right direction or not, I think they're going to.
I mean, when Nick Sirianni basically says, what the owner wants, the owner gets, and like things like
Right.
that, it's obviously saying that the decisions are out of his hands.
Yeah.
He might
Yeah.
have input. We don't know what that level of input, because apparently the scouts who the team employs to give them input get their, recommendations overridden by, owner or a GM that has zero scouting experience.
Yeah.
So like, there's only so much that could obviously weigh into that decision.
Because they're also they're doing all this checks and balancing, that sometimes that collaboration theme that Jeffrey Lurie talks about a lot can it sometimes backfire on you. And where you had the New England had so much success because they really had one voice, right? The coach.
Yeah, well, you could say that, but the other part of it though too is like, you look at the guys who have come out of that GM or come out of that front office to take GMing roles. The Scott Pioli's, the Nick Casario's, these guys who are there. I mean, they made their hay being part of the draft process, and I think that's one of the things that like a lot of people, when they look at Bill Belichick, is like they see this curmudgeon, they see this grumpy old guy on the outside, but every player who's ever played for him for the most part has said how much they enjoy playing for him. Every coach who has coached with him has pretty much loved that experience, because there's the media side that you get of Bill Belichick, and then there's the I just want to win football games. What do you bring to the table that helps you win football games? And I will kindly take and be receptive to that because of that same motto, do your job, and that togetherness that they really have, that cohesion.
But the
it
thing
does
is,
align to the top, but
you can be all that, have all those kinds of philosophies when you have not just a Hall of Fame quarterback,
right.
but you have the greatest quarterback in NFL history.
Of course.
We'll see over the next couple seasons how that kind of pans out. He goes to Tampa Bay, and what did the coach say afterwards? I pretty much let him do whatever he wants. He
kind of
earned
had to.
that.
I mean, well, at the beginning, it wasn't so buddy like that though. Bruce Arians had after a couple of those first games of the season, had basically laid into Brady even in public, and basically said like he's not seeing the field, he's not seeing what we're doing. And then it came time to where he basically had his thing and said, maybe I should just let Brady do what Brady does. And then eventually everything kind of went in the direction that it did.
But that might have been the perfect thing that Brady needed to hear, because they were 5-3 or something at one point. They weren't doing very well.
Right.
And then he, did his thing at the end.
That's it. I mean, I said everybody needs maybe
that was a nice team.
wake-up call. Of course it was. But
all 22 starters are coming back.
But the team worked its way into that, right? You've got, the way the team had it. I mean, Antonio Brown even came back today, right? They brought him back. Not only are they returning all of the starters, but they returned all of the depth pieces too. Yeah. Even Ryan Griffin, who came back as the backup quarterback to sit back behind Brady. And then they did all of that, a lot of it, because, those guys took pay cuts. Ndamukong Suh could have signed for more elsewhere. Shaq Barrett could have signed for more elsewhere. Levante David could have signed for more elsewhere. They took the pay cuts because they understood what it meant to keep that
if you're a star,
championship run
if you're
going.
A star, you do have some kind of a post-career life, marketing-wise. But if you're a star with rings after you retire, your marketability is a lot bigger, I would think.
That's it. Jerry Jones can flex rings all he wants and say, come play for the Cowboys. You hadn't won one in a while, man.
Yeah.
Tom Brady could say, I just won one last year. You want to come get yours? And it's a little bit better of a sales pitch.
God,
Well, it's kind of like LaShawn McCoy, like partying with all his rings that he won in the last couple of years.
Hey,
It's
man.
all weird stuff.
Didn't
He
step
play
on,
it down
didn't,
in there.
Didn't bend one blade of grass, but he's in there.
Hey, man. But that's the other part of it, though, too, is, he's still in the meetings, man. You got to think that he gave maybe a couple pointers to Fournette,
no question.
or helped,
He's like a
Ronald
coach.
Jones be a little bit better. Right, exactly. So, and that's the other part of it, too, where it's like, it's like the clipboard warriors, right? Like the guys who are behind the starting quarterbacks, like they have an important job, too. The guy who runs scout
There's some people, they need, Johnny Carson used to say, I'm not going on the air without Ed McMahon.
Yeah.
And there are people, those clipboard warriors you talk about, some of those stars desperately want those guys on the sideline.
Yeah.
That's my security blanket. And
it's like having another assistant coach.
Right. So somebody that I can be myself to and not have a coach-player relationship with. So there is no question that every single person, and one of the, I always have said that Jim Schwartz has a great gift of gab about the sport of football. He said that everybody that was in 2017, whether you were a practice squad player or a guy who was just in camp, your fingerprint is on that trophy. Mm-hmm. And you had something to do with it. You said something to somebody. You contributed in some way that helped us get to the final goal, achieve it. So, yeah, I think he overdid a little bit, LaShawn
I don't
McCoy.
really
But
care.
you
I
know
just
what?
thought- yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah.
You're shady, man. You're shady McCoy.
It is shady.
You know, come on. And
I still don't forgive him
but
for
he was at
ruining the end of.
I was there. He
Avengers
was
for people.
just when he won with with Kansas City. They gave him a riser. Mm-hmm. You know, on one of the media days, he wasn't even going to play, and he had a riser. You know what I mean? I mean, you have to be pretty special to have a riser during these. There's certain statuses. You know,
for sure.
At these Super Bowl things, and he had a riser. So, I thought he was going to play, and then all of a sudden he's deactivated. But he had a big grin on his face the whole time. You know,
Gotta love it.
and Andy Reid hooked him up. You know,
Hey, man.
You're the leading rusher in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles, and you got trashed because you had a coach that didn't know how to handle pro egos, and that was the only reason why he's gone.
Oh, I know.
You know, so he went to Buffalo and had how many Pro Bowls did he make there? Like 3.
Yeah, I mean,
And so I mean, come on, that was just one of these things that you just like want to shake somebody over there. Like, why? So
Well, that was
he's a
because they were
jerk.
just
That's not
letting
our
shit-
problem. As a fan, that's not my problem.
yeah.
You know, I always, to this day, will say that the biggest disappointment during Andy Reid's tenure was his handling of T.O. Mm-hmm. You know, like you and I, Al, we can suspend him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that doesn't take much thought.
No.
You know, and so your solution to this? Well, we're just going to suspend him for the rest of the year. Wow. Well, that really helped.
Yeah.
And so
I always say him in the pocket. Him in the pocket. That's where it hurts the most.
You paid, but you're paid, you know, to be almost like a psychologist in these things.
No, listen. You always talk about who was the coach.
Phil Wright,
yeah.
Jackson.
Phil Jackson. He was a psychologist. He wasn't really much of a. Once he got the triangle thing down, and he told Jordan, you're still gonna get the ball, you know, like the same amount of times, but this kind of makes everybody feel like they're part of it, you know, and like, and once he got that down, he was just racking up the rings, right?
Yep.
Did the same thing at the Lakers. So I was disappointed at Andy Reid that he didn't do what they're really paying you to do. That's what my thought was, and so, but whatever, for whatever that's worth. But let's. We only have a few more minutes left. We talked a little bit about the Sixers. They are playing tonight against Atlanta, and they're a pretty good team this year, Atlanta. So,
Yeah, well, they're trashing Atlanta currently as we speak. They're up 51-26. So I would say if Philly loses this game, wow. So
Yeah.
I would probably count this one in the W
It's their
column.
fault.
Yeah.
how come we don't have it on?
Because I completely forgot to put it on. Because I looked at the Phillies game, like, I'll start to 7:45. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, let me check the Sixers game.
And it's on. So we missed all that.
Yeah.
But the Phillies are 11-12 after last night's loss to St. Louis, 5-2, right? Mm-hmm. And they face the Cardinals tonight. And Odubel Herrera, are you surprised? There really hasn't been much of a fuss that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things to where it's like the fuss came when he got brought back, right? You know what I mean?
That
Like
news cycle's come and gone.
Exactly, and so it's like at that point you were looking at the center fielder,
And most-
roster spots,
and-
and it's only a matter of question when.
And the Philly fans get credit for being intelligent sports fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
They
let's not get carried
know
away.
that the Phillies are basically have no choice to bring this guy up.
Yeah, and even at that point, you might have been angry with him, but you're like, we got to throw it against the wall and see if it sticks type situation. And personally, I just would hope that I just think it's a stopgap situation because I'm hoping Dombrowski's out there, dropping a line in the market and see what he can pull out.
Well, but he hasn't done anything at the plate, right, at all. He literally hasn't had a hit yet since he's been up, has he? I've seen offers every night
No,
he's been out there.
Yeah, he's over.
Who?
Odubel Herrera.
Yeah, he's 0-for-6 or something so far.
For the whole time he's been back. But that was a great defensive play in center field to end the game against St. Louis, a 2-1 win. And you had some, how many times, do you see a pitcher in that night had, just a brilliant performance, and then you throw it away over, poor defense or whatever, and it's been a black hole, right?
Yeah.
Center field. And so that position helped them actually produce a win, but I guess the manager is kind of glad that there hasn't been much of a fuss for it. So I guess they're going to keep playing him. They don't have any choice. Obviously they need him to get a stick. Who's the infielder has been batting like crazy? Moran.
Oh yeah, they just brought him up. He's been playing because
been tearing up, right?
Yeah. Segura has been out still. He's been and he's been. I think he hit in every game he's played at so far. I'm pretty, unless last night he didn't because I didn't get to watch the entire game. But
yeah,
he's hitting every game. JT's batting well. I mean, I think right now going into tonight's game, Harper's batting like a 329 or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, he's the one who's doing the most. Rhys Hoskins is the leading home run hitter right now in the National League right now. So yeah,
the whole league, isn't it? The whole majors.
At least the National League. I'm not sure about the majors, but I'm pretty sure it could be up there.
At the end of that night, when he had the two home
run night,
he was leading the majors, and that was the first one was an absolute stone cold rocket. The second one just
he's in a 4-way tie right now.
All right,
he's actually tied with two people in the NL now with Ryan McMahon and Ronald Acuna. And then,
that's because the Phillies gave McMahon a couple extra home runs. He plays for the Rockies, so when we sat there and let the Rockies just hit on us, going into that series, the Rockies were like 7-14 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something along those lines. And yet we came in there and made them look like stars, like put them back in the talk again.
Yeah, I know. And they are what the Sixers were last year, where they couldn't win at all on the road. I mean, at all. And the Phillies are abysmal on the road this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they've not even come close to winning a series on the road, have they?
I think they won. They're like, after last night, they've won 2 or 3 games on the road the whole time.
I'm saying they're not even close to winning a series.
Yeah.
And even if they win tonight.
Oh, actually, I think I saw something. They haven't had a series win on the road since like before 2020. Mm-hmm. Like 2019, like the end of the season was the last time.
It's not like you had this crowd beating down on you. I mean, there's just nobody
Remember,
there.
the Phillies almost made the playoffs because of the playoff situation last year, and all they had to do was win one game in the final weekend, and they couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
The way they're
I mean, right now they're kind of lulling a little bit. They came out super hot, just sweeping the Braves, and everybody thought the National League East was going to be this powerhouse, which it still could be. It's way early to make.
But at this point, it's like just
slotted for that spot, right? So where did the Eagles go? To number 51, of course.
Yeah.
Kind of build him up a little bit, Jalen Reagor and all that.
I like Jalen Reagor.
Yeah.
I mean, they just didn't use him properly. Or
once again,
the injury.
I have to take into consideration. I know taking into consideration is how much it was at Howie and his picks not picking the right stuff. How much it was not having the right staff to cultivate these young players. Because how many? How do we know that? Not bad example, but like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside isn't actually a really good player who just never.
Well, you also had the two main guys, Jim Schwartz and Doug Peterson. The pandemic, all the rules you had to go by. This just coaches.
This has been for years now. This is pre-pandemic.
Yeah, but I think there's certain circumstances that make it more difficult. And the pandemic, in this case, it kind of helped the Giants from their chemistry standpoint.
Yeah.
It threw the Eagles into a tailspin.
Yeah.
It helped Washington with that new coach. It hurt the Eagles went into tailspin.
Mm-hmm.
So will this group, they've already been dealt a kind of a punch that most other teams got with nobody's going to come in until they have to.
Yep.
So we'll see how this group operates under those kind of conditions.
Yeah.
And I saw those practices, and it was depressing. I'm telling you, it was depressing. And it wasn't anything like you normally see. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, I do want to thank Al Zaffiri for producing the show today, Matt Santoleri. I do want to thank Nancy Quallick for being our great sponsor. And, of course, I do want to thank Dr. Sean McMillan from Virtual World for being on the show as well. My name is Al Thompson. And until the next time, we'll see you.
With a whole new team.
That's it.